Hi BookTube! It's Missy and welcome to Vlogmas Day 16. I know I went from 14 to 16. I am skipping 15. I don't like day 15. Maybe I was just too lazy to do day 15. Anywho, today's video is going to be classics and the classics that I want to buy in 2015 and the beautiful covered classics that I would like to buy and read in 2015. I was talking to Sylvia over at Wish Fulfillment and she asked me, she goes, did you make a video on this topic? And I didn't because, you know, the whole picture-in-picture deal that I haven't been able to get yet. I decided I would list all these things, kind of group them up, and then quickly show you the book covers that I'm actually going to buy. And, you know, if you like these covers, maybe you can buy them too. And I will leave all of the Amazon information, like the links to all of these books, down below in the doobly-doo. So the first one I want to talk about, or the first two, are actually ancient classics, and they are both from Homer. I want to get the Iliad and the Odyssey. I'm really lame when it comes to these two books, and I didn't realize the Iliad was the story of Troy and the war and everything. And so I am excited to read this. I have seen the Odyssey, like a 1970s movie that I really liked, but that's actually the sequel to the Iliad, and that happens 10 years after the war when Odysseus or whatever comes back to his wife Penelope and his son. And so I didn't know any of that, and so I'm definitely interested in reading these two books. I know they're honkers, but I want to read them. The publishing company that makes the two books that I really want to buy because they have such gorgeous covers, and that's the University of Chicago Press, and they're both translated by Richard Lattimore. I don't know who that is, but if you know if that's a good translator, then yay to those two books. The next book that I want to talk about is The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley. This is a non-fiction, and this is actually a book that takes place 10 to 12 years earlier than Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So I'm really interested in reading about the differences between these two books. Huxley took masculine and then wrote these essays, and so I'm looking forward to reading what kind of weird things he went through. And this publishing house is Frontal Lobe, so it's kind of like a thinking series or whatever. I don't know. The cover looks really cool. The next three books are also by Aldous Huxley, but these ones are from a different publishing house. I want to get Brave New World, which is a dystopian. Island, which is another dystopian about a island that has named Paula that's been away from everybody for like 150 years, and what happens when people find out about this island. And then there's another one called The Devil of Loudun, and this is actually a non-fiction about a mass possession and sexual hysteria that happened in France. And I was like, wait, a mass devil possession? That sounds so cool. I want to read those three. I also want to get Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson. And if you haven't seen the movie with Johnny Depp, I would definitely check it out. It's hilarious. It's just a weekend-long drug fest in Vegas where the main character is a journalist, and he goes there with his lawyer, and they just weirdness happens. I don't even know if the entire movie is true. It's just a total drug trip. And it's funny, and so I want to get the book. And then the last book that I want to buy from this particular publishing company is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, and this is a mental illness book. All 5 of these books are by Harper Perennial Modern Classics, and they're all really cool, and I want to own them. Alright, the next book on the list is The Neverending Story by Michael Ende, and it's been translated by Ralph Manham. And this is published by Dunton Juvenile. I used to love watching this movie. I still do, but I've never read the book, and so I went to read the book. The next book on my list is The Princess Bride. This too, originated as a book and then it became a movie, and I really, really enjoy it. This one is by William Goldman, and this particular edition that I want is illustrated by Michael Manoverable. I don't know how to say his last name, but this is from publishing house HMH. It's too long for me to say. The next three books on my list are Penguin Classics. The first one is One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest. This is also about mental illness by Ken Kesey. I own this one, but I want to get the cooler paperback, and it's the deluxe version, or the deluxe edition. I also want to get Les Mis. I did read this book in the graphic novel edition, and now that I've read it and I kind of got a gist of what the storyline is about, I want to start from the beginning of the original and read that one through. That book is by Victor Hugo. And I also want to try Crime and Punishment by Fjord. I looked up how to say his name and I forgot now. Fyodor Dostoevsky. This is a Russian murder mystery. I really want to read it. This cover is awesome. The next 6 books are all from Alma Classics. That's the publishing house. And the first one is Notes from Underground. This is also by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Darn it. This is a Russian philosophy book about Fyodor's different moments in his life and his philosophical ideas. The next one is Moby Dick by Herman Melville, and that's a whale book. It's got whale lore and sea stuff, like fishing stuff, and it's supposed to be really awesome, but it's a super long book, and I want to know if it's good, so I want to read it. The third book is Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I have already read that book this year, but that's an ugly edition, and I want to buy this newer edition. This one is by Robert Louis Stevenson. The fourth book is Masters and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. And that one is a satire of the Soviet Union's Stalin regime. So it's like a humorous Russian book. The fifth one is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I already own this book in graphic novel, and I also own a very ugly edition of this book, so I want to get the prettier cover. And the last book from this publishing company is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I did read this book in the graphic novel version, but I want to read it in its original state. And so all of those books are gorgeous, and I want to buy them next year at some point in time. Alright, the next book is The Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, and this version is the Modern Library Classics edition. It's gorgeous. I have read The Great Expectations in high school and I loved it, and I've seen the movie. It wasn't as good as the book. I've read Great Expectations once, and then I was starting to reread it a couple years ago, but I never finished. But yeah, I really love that book. Alright, the next book is Oliver Twist, also by Charles Dickens. This particular version that I want is from Vintage Classics. I love this cover. I want it. I want it. And this is also about an orphan. But this orphan gets stolen by thieves and they turn him into a bad guy, I believe. I haven't seen the movie and I haven't read it, so that's just kind of what I saw from Goodreads. But I was going quickly, so there's probably a lot more detail to that book. Next publishing company is the Puffin Classics, and these are such pretty covers and they're pretty cheap on Amazon and I want them. And so the very first book on the list is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I have seen this movie in numerous forms: cartoon, puppets, movies, Vanessa Williams version, a whole bunch of different kinds. And I just love this story about Scrooge and having to meet future, past, and present ghosts, and how, you know, after, at the end of the book, he gives money away and he's not a mean miser anymore. And I love it, and I want the book. The next one is Pippi Longstockings by Astrid Lindgren. I have seen the movie a dozen times or so since I've been little, and Pippi's crazy. She has a horse and a monkey, and they are her companions, and she lives in a house by herself, and her two neighbors come over and play all the time, and Pippi gets in trouble a lot because her dad doesn't live with her. She's on her own, and it's just an adventure book about Pippi and her neighbors, and I want to get the book. The next Puffin classic I want to get is Alice Adventures in Wonderland. Everybody knows about Alice. She falls down a rabbit hole and she's in this magical world with crazy creatures and all this weird stuff happens. I already own the Barnes & Noble edition, but I want this one too because it's beautiful. And then I want to get Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. I've never read this book, but I've seen the Disney version and I've seen the play, and I really like the story, and so I want to read the original about a boy who doesn't want to grow up. And the last one is The Wizard of Oz. I have two different editions of A Wizard of Oz, but I want this one so I can get rid of those ones because those ones are ugly. This one is L. Frank Baum, and I'm not really interested in reading the entire Wizard of Oz series. I just want the first one. Yeah, because that one is more familiar to me, I guess.
We dissected this book when I was in high school. We didn't read it, we just dissected kind of like the movie itself, but it's all about economics and what is it called? The Great Depression.
Gold standard.
Is it gold standard?
Yeah.
Shit. Oh, it's all about the gold standard. Shit. Anywho.
I want that book too. Alright, the next book on my classics list that I would like to buy is Don Quixote, and I've heard other people say that it's a very long, hard to read book, but I want to try it out. And this particular edition is by Martin Jenkins. I know that the real person was Miguel de Cervantes. I believe that's how you say his last name. But this one is translated, and the illustrator is Chris Rydell, so I want it for the illustrations and for the story. And my husband said that there's a cartoon that I've never seen with a coyote and a panda, and now I must watch this cartoon, and I want to read the book. Stop laughing. This it's not real?
It is.
Oh. Daddy! Stop it. So, the publisher of this edition is Walker Illustrated Classics, so I can't wait to read it. The next one on the list is The Lord of Flies by William Golding. I have heard of this book, but I've never read it in high school or anything like that. And this is a dystopian about a bunch of boys marooned on a coral island, or I guess it's a deserted island. And this edition is by Faber and Faber. The next 4 books are by Createspace Independent Publishing. They don't have any ratings, I don't believe, on Amazon, but I really like the covers, and so I hope this isn't a bad buy and that it's actually the right stories. But there's Adventures of Tom Sawyer and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I read both of those books in high school, and those are both by Mark Twain. And then there is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I have heard about this book a lot too, but I know nothing about this actual classic, and so I want to get it. And then the last one is Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. I've read this book. This is a German short story about a boy who wakes up as a cockroach, and it's very strange, and it's like 100 pages, and I want it. So, to add to my classics collection. Alright, and the very, very last book on my classics list that I want to buy is Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. Tons of people have spoken about this. It's in numerous movies and other fiction that you read. They will, you know, the main characters will talk about this story or any book by Kurt Vonnegut. And so I want to try this book first. And this is a sci-fi, dystopian, humor, global, Armageddon kind of book. And this particular edition is by Dell Publishing. I hope this video isn't too boring. I wanted to share all these really pretty covers with you guys and let you guys know what classics I want to buy in the future. And that's it. I will talk to you guys hopefully tomorrow. I hope you have a wonderful night and the rest of your week if I don't talk to you, and I will see you later.